Living in a fast-paced consumerist society, we often hear things like buy more, do more, you need this, don't forget to purchase that. There's this feeling that we never have enough. Trying to tackle this with minimalism or in general living with less is a great idea, but it can really feel like an uphill battle when the noise of consumerism surrounds us every moment of the day. That's why I wanted to create this video, to share a 10-step guide packed with powerful tips that have helped me to live with less in today's world and do so with confidence. Number 1, understand why people are consumerists. I believe that gaining a better understanding of how things work helps you determine whether you should participate in it or not. To sustain the growth of sales, companies use advertising. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with telling people that you may have something that they find valuable. But these days, advertising doesn't just inform consumers about products. It actively creates needs and desires, many times creating ones that didn't even exist before. This has created a whole consumer culture where buying and owning things is not just a way to meet needs, but also a way to get certain status, acceptance, or simply attention. Over time, we have normalized this exaggerated shopping culture and have been conditioned to see consumption as essential to our well-being and success. Many products are designed with a very limited lifespan or they quickly become outdated. This forces consumers to replace items very often, especially in industries like electronics, fashion, and appliances. People turn to shopping and consumption also as ways to cope with stress, anxiety, or seek this temporary happiness. And then all this creates this fear of judgment and fear of missing out for those people who cannot afford certain items. And this leads them to work very long hours just to obtain what others have. And here, the cycle is then ready. I know this is a quite simplified explanation of how we ended up here, and probably some economists could find proof for me why all this is absolutely necessary for the survival of our species. But looking at the numbers, all this seems to be quite the opposite of survival. Americans are buying 4 times more clothes than in the year 2000. 3.1% of the world's children live in the United States, but they own 40% of the toys consumed globally. There's a big difference there. Americans spend more on shoes, jewelry, and watches, 100 billion around, than on higher education. This is not an attack on Americans. I think these numbers speak for the whole Western society, but it was just so much easier to access and find this data for the US. I tried to find statistics on how many items average home contains, and I found estimates ranging from 10,000 items to 300,000 items, but I think it's quite challenging to calculate the exact number of things, but for sure we are talking about thousands. But one point I want to make here is that it's important to recognize that not all of this consumer behavior is fault of the actual individuals. Many people are just unconscious victims of this system that pressures them all the time to make purchases that they don't truly need. Number 2, accept that people are different from you. If you are a minimalist or aspiring to be one, you probably live differently than most people around you. Your values and habits might not align with this mainstream or what other people have, and that is perfectly okay. Don't worry too much about what others think of your lifestyle choices. Even if others find your minimalist lifestyle a little bit weird or different, remember that you know what works the best for you. You can't overnight change other people's values or buying behaviors, especially on a societal level. I think that is just impossible. So instead of getting frustrated and wishing things were different, accept what you cannot control and focus on what you can control. So for example, your own habits, relationships, and mindset. The other day I got this comment on my frugal living video. I live in the United States. I am sure you know a bit about what is going on here right now. Living in dire times gives one perspective. What other people think about my frugal lifestyle has become the absolute least of my concerns. And I think it's very good to apply this mindset also to minimalism. So do whatever floats your boat and live life on your own terms. If you truly care about your well-being, living aligned with your values is much, much more important than fitting into this consumerist mold just to please others. Number 3, what's important to you? Take some time to write down what truly matters to you. What do you want to experience during your life and your existence? What type of life do you want to create? When you have that list, reflect on how many of those important things are actual material possessions. This is something that has helped me so much, and I teach this step by step in my online course, Simple Life Blueprint. Recently, I did this exercise also with somebody I coach, and we discovered that none of those key priorities or important things were material things. Instead, this person valued experiences like spending time with family, enjoying life's moments, having meaningful friendships, and feeling more peace and freedom. So it's easy to have this mismatch between what you have or aspire to have and what you actually want from life. I think this exercise is crucial for gaining confidence in being a minimalist in a consumerist society, because it helps to clarify your life's purpose and what truly drives you. Remember that this purpose or vision for your life can change over time, but having still an idea of what is valuable to you will guide you in this decision making, and you will start to understand what you need and what is something that you don't need. I think this is so important to understand, because if you don't know what you want, you will be told what you want and then you will believe it. As I mentioned in the first point, we are constantly bombarded with messages, advertisements about what we should have and who we should be. Without our own story, we might just buy into theirs. Number 4, accept your current state. Let me share a little story with you. I love running. It has been a huge part of my life for years. Recently, I came across this motivational speaker named David Goggins. You might have heard of him. He can be pretty intense, especially when it comes to working out. However, his story is incredibly empowering and has inspired me both as a runner and a minimalist. He was once really overweight and wanted to make a change. In his interviews, and I believe in his book as well, he mentions this moment that was one of the key moments in all this journey for him, when he was standing in front of the mirror and just being fully honest with himself. He realized he couldn't lie to the person staring back at him. He accepted his life situation for what it truly was instead of denying it. If your actions aren't aligned with that vision you have, and I mentioned in the last point, like for example buying a lot of things or letting your space become cluttered without doing anything about it, I think it's time for some self-reflection. And remember that acknowledging your current state doesn't mean beating yourself up over it. What matters is what you choose to do from this moment forward. Number 5, gain confidence through competence. Initially, I didn't have the skills for minimalism, decluttering, or time management. This lack of competence made it tough to live by my values and resist just following what others were doing. Just relying solely on willpower to maintain a certain lifestyle can be really, really challenging. So what I have learned is that competence builds confidence. By actively practicing and discovering what works for you and developing skills like prioritization, time management, critical thinking, and decision making, you make your life so much easier as a minimalist. You start to understand yourself better and begin to see the downsides of certain choices, like why constantly buying more stuff isn't really beneficial. As you grow more competent, you start shaping an identity that aligns with minimalism. Of course, you don't have to label yourself anything if you don't want to, but this is something that has certainly helped me along my journey. For me, minimalism as a word or as a term is a very powerful one, because it encapsulates many of my values and things that I find very important to me. It reminds me that I am someone who values simplicity, focus, and clarity. Ultimately, it all starts with deciding what you want to be, who you want to be, and then learning the skills to get there. This approach and the confidence you gain from it will make navigating minimalism in a consumerist world so much easier. 6. How to balance minimalism and busy everyday life. Most of us would say that we have busy lives, but I think that it's important to distinguish what busy really means. Just because you are doing a lot doesn't mean that you are necessarily busy, or that's at least how I like to think of it. For example, I do a lot, but I like to think of myself as focused rather than busy, as the word busy can have this, or at least for me, it has this negative vibe. And what I do and what are the things that I spend time doing are actually like very good things. They have nothing like that is negative about them. And when life starts to get overwhelming for me, I know and I have learned to take a step back. I don't need to all the time be pushing forward and get busy and make that positive to be somehow negative. If you have a hectic schedule and you are struggling with living a simpler, minimalist life, it's important to prioritize what is essential for you. Focus on actions that have the biggest impact on your mental health and your minimalist journey. Because you cannot focus on everything at once. It's just not possible. So identify what balances your busy life and then create routines around those priorities. Daily routines have helped the decision-making process so much for me because I don't anymore have to overthink every choice, everything that I'm doing. I just do the same thing every single day and it makes me feel good every single day. For instance, I like to declutter as I go. Sometimes I have these whole big sessions for decluttering, like I had a couple of videos ago, this hour-long decluttering challenge. But usually if I find something unnecessary, something that is clutter for me, I deal with it immediately instead of waiting for months just because it's not this decluttering season yet. I decluttered a month ago, now I will wait 11 months to get rid of that. Also be mindful about what you say yes or no to. Every opportunity isn't worth adding to your plate, especially if you are already busy. For example, spending time with family is a big yes for me, while attending a random party might not be an immediate yes. I got invited to this party and it would be, I think, this week or something, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna go yet. I didn't say yes or no because I still have to think about, is that the best use for time for me? Also, my friends invite me to play video games in the evening many times, but I often decline if it doesn't align with my needs at that moment. Even if I know that it's fun and it could be entertaining, if I have been working with my computer in front of screen already all day, that's not gonna be the healthiest, the best choice for me anymore. Plan your downtime. Decide when you want to stop working. When is the time to dedicate time just for yourself? What is the exact time and of course a date as well? This is crucial because life can get chaotic. It easily does. And without planning this downtime in advance, it may never come. You just always find something else to do during that time. So for me, this downtime is always in the evenings and especially on the weekends. This is the time when I really want to focus on myself. That's time blocked just for me. Number 7, raise your standards. In your minimalist journey, you will likely encounter moments when you realize certain things just no longer serve you. And I think these are perfect opportunities to raise your standards and decide what truly belongs in your life. So to ask yourself, what standards do I want to have from now on? This could be about physical objects, relationships, or how you choose to spend your time. I think the pride of having cool stuff and overworking is for those people chasing external validation and status. A balanced and minimalist life is for those who want to feel more fulfilled and not become successful just to say that they are successful. In my opinion, intentionality, sustainability, and consistency must be prioritized before making big investments or chasing after these big achievements. By raising your standards, you are very much protecting your space, time and energy, and probably even your bank account. Number 8, don't be afraid to have non-minimalist things in your life. The core idea of minimalism is owning only what adds value and meaning to your life and letting go of the rest. And since that's about your life, not a general thing, it's important for you to define how to go about it, rather than simply following others' interpretations of it or the minimalist aesthetics. Recently, I received a thoughtful comment talking exactly about this. Minimalist mindset matters more than the number of items you have. An artist needs brushes, paints, canvases, etc. Many art studios are messy and look cluttered to an outsider because the creation process is intuitive and messy. But if everything serves a purpose, not just the tools, but the books and artworks on the wall as inspiration, then none of it is useless. I think some minimalists or people who strive for minimalism also get trapped in the numbers game, not realizing that the point is not to figure out what's the minimum number of things you can survive with, but what you personally need to thrive. So don't be afraid to have non-minimalist looking things in your life. It's really not about looking like a minimalist, but rather having the minimalist mindset and then living like one. Number 9, know what is enough. Our society constantly pushes us to want more, do more, and buy more. I think it's very easy to get caught up in this cycle of acquiring new things, and without understanding how much is enough, we might end up feeling like we are always lacking something. So ask yourself questions like, how many shoes or shirts do I really need? How many good friends do I want to have? What's the income level that makes me comfortable? How big should my home be? How many hours am I happy working? By answering these questions, you might even discover that you are already where you want to be. You just hadn't realized it before. Recognizing this can prevent you from constantly chasing after something new and something better. Ultimately, this isn't just about numbers, it's about feelings too. So how do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning? That's, I think, a very, very powerful question. Number 10, understand the importance of minimalism, but don't obsess over it. I don't obsess over my minimalist lifestyle every day because I want to keep it easy going. I'm not really forcing it, I'm simply enjoying life while being a minimalist, because I don't think that there's a need to overthink every single choice. Over time, these choices and minimalism becomes second nature. But also remember that you are part of a movement, whether you realize it or not. Your choices impact yourself, the people around you, and even the world at large. While I mentioned that you cannot change the whole society and one person cannot really do that, especially alone and in a very short time frame, your decisions still matter, and what you do can inspire many others to take control of their lives. If you're looking for very practical steps to simplify your life, check out my online course, Simple Life Blueprint. It offers specific workbooks and exercises that I think can really help you forward step by step on this journey. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one. Ciao.